All right, gentlemen. The draws have been made. The posts are set. The odds are out. Looks the next thing, the only thing really left is the racing for the Breeders' Cup. Probably the biggest name coming into this race, at least the one that's generating the most buzz, particularly online, is Flightline. So the question is Flightline this once in a lifetime or once in a generation type horse? Or is Flightline vulnerable at that 3-5 morning line odds? And will it get beat? Charles says no way. Thomas says absolutely. But before we get to that, morning line odds are 3-5. Charles, is he going off at 3-5?
No, he's going to even go down lower than that. Who knows, really? But it definitely will go lower than that. I actually see. I think on the whole odds, you're going to see a much lower odds overall on the whole field. Like Rich Strike, 20-1. I actually think he's going to be bet down to a single-digit number. I don't think the horse has got got a shot to hit it, but I think there's a lot of backers out there for that horse. A lot of people like that horse just because what he did in the Derby.
All right, Tom. So Charles thinks it's going to be less than 3-5. I happen to agree with him. I think it'll be less than 3-5. I don't know how everybody's odds goes down. If one comes down, others have got to go up. That's just the way it works. But in any case, what do you think? 3-5, lower? Where are you pegging it at?
I was thinking 2-5. There's enough other horses in this race that I think are going to attract money, and with that, they're going. He's going to get some. There's going to be some betting and some that are going to take Flightline and put him second in their exactas and stuff like that.
I think he's going to be 1-5 or lower personally, but we'll find out when they go live. All right. So Tom, quick, drew the post number 3. Do you think that's beneficial, hurts, helps? Where do you see that one coming?
Oh, the speed's on the outside. So, I mean, we know Life is Good is going to go for the lead. Mm-hmm. I would be very surprised if he doesn't. There's, Hot Rod Charlie has in the past, but he's also become more versatile. And he's certainly a gutsy runner. I wouldn't be surprised if Olympiad popped out there.
Olympiad?
Yeah. Now the other thing is to predict the pace. Mm-hmm. And I went 23, 45, 57, 108. That sets up for a closer.
That's pretty fast, Charles. Do you think they can run that fast and win like Life is Good or Flightline or any of them?
Well, they definitely can go that fast. Life is Good is going to take the lead. But I think they're smart enough everyone's smart enough to know not to try to go 108. But there's only one horse that can do that, and that's Flightline. Come on, guys. I mean, he has proven it time and time again. You look at his races, he's done the 108s, and he was cruising, So
before we get to the 108s, Tom did bring up the pace of the race, right? So let's go ahead, and I do the things that I like to do, draw things out. So these are the horses and where they like average on their early pace figures. So the 3 horse being Flightline.
Flightline's the 4, right?
The 3.
4 horse.
He's the 4 horse? Oh, mm-hmm. Is it the 4 horse? I thought he was the 3 horse. Mm-hmm. My apologies. Anyway, in the earlier program, it looked like it was the 3 horse to me. Oh, no. Hold on a second. You're right. You're right. It's the 4 horse. The 3 horse, let me just pull this up on the screen so I have it right in my head. The 4 horse is Happy Saver. And then yes, I have Happy Saver.
No, those are pre. They're not
that was the pre-entry.
All right.
Yeah, so ignore that.
Breeders' Cup. Yes, here we go. Here all right. So I was working off the pre-entry, so forgive me for that. Okay. All right. So on the pre-entries, I had coming on the pre-entries, because this is what I had to work with. I had the 3 horse and the 6 horse. It's the horses in the pre-entries that were going to be the quickest out of the gate. So that's the 3 is Flightline. Mm-hmm. The 6 horse at that time was Life is Good. So those 2, if you look at their early pace figures, you would see that they both average up something. Typically, they average over 100. The peak number on the right-hand side, so Life is Good is peaked at 107, and Flightline is peaked at that opening call at 104. But if you look back through here in the horses that are typically 90 through 100, you see a bunch of them that can get up into their grills and into their spates. In fact, even the 8 horse in this case was Rich Strike has put 100 out on the table. I have a feeling this one can get crazy, crazy, crazy fast. And if we look at the way the pace, again, this is off of the pre-race one, so I apologize. The only horse in here that absolutely, to me, looks like it needs the lead to win is Life is Good. So if Life is Good gets the lead, you think it's going to be strong enough, bold enough to keep it all the way around the track? Charles?
No. He's definitely going to have the speed to go to the front, for sure, for the first call, for sure. But after the first call, I definitely see Flightline, the number 4 horse, coming right up on his side and probably most likely take over the second call. If not, after that, right after that second call, he will take over. And I honestly believe the question here is not is he going to win, is how many lengths is he going to win by?
Put a number on it.
I will say 7.
So Charles thinks that Flightline wins by 7 lengths. It's going to take over by the second call. Nobody can compete with him. And then Thomas, you say that's not going to happen, that the 2 to 5, 1 to 5, 3 to 5, whatever he goes off is a bad bet. Why is Flightline going to lose? And who is it that's going to beat Flightline?
Well, I looked at it 2 ways. And the first is who's going to make the first move. And I really think it's going to be Epicenter is going to make that first move. And what he showed in the Traverse is that he can be tactical and can blow him away when he wants to. The other one is the best late mover in this is Terabith. I mean, he is shown that, except really for the Kentucky Derby, that he's a fighter. And he will battle it right out with any of them. And then, of course, I have to throw the Bob Baffert factor in. You know, how many times has John Sadler won this race? How many times has Bob Baffert won this race? Well, there's a big difference in numbers there.
Absolutely. 100%
well, my
sure.
question is then how many times has Bob Baffert entered a horse in these races compared to John Sadler?
He still won. That's the difference.
Baffert enters all the time. He has the lifetime horse for like 2,000 times. He has it every day, every week. That's why he's entering always a horse in this race. And the odds would be that you would at least pick up some checks in those.
Yeah,
so considering all the speed,
we're talking about winning. We're not talking about checks.
Yeah, right. Winning is the key here.
Well, winning is the big check here, which that's why Sadler had pointed this horse 100% throughout the year for this race. He has spread out his works and his races just for this.
Well, Bob says those are, and this, maybe it's Bob Baffert even. He says irrelevant stat. Different horses are running.
Yeah, but it's called preparation for the race,
and
that's the key. I mean, let's face it. American Pharaoh was the most dominant coming into the race, and he proved on the track. Talbot is not the most dominant, but he's thrown up some very tough numbers and also been very consistent. And in terms of moving late, I think he's the one that will be moving the fastest late.
One quick question. I know it's a different horses, different race, which brings up a point that I want to make. Flightline did beat Country Grammar and some good horses in the Pacific Classic. Only ventured out east once to run N Belmont at the Metropolitan Handicap. But outside of maybe Country Grammar, the best horse that this horse has beat is, at least in this race, is Happy Saver. Probably won't get a lot of backing. Might even be the longest shot on the board. Don't you feel like, Tom or Charles, that maybe Epicenter and Life is Good have maybe faced a little bit stiffer competition, and Flightline doesn't really know what it's like to be challenged? Gonna get challenged for sure in this race. Do you think if he gets challenged and doesn't get his way, Tom, he has a chance to fold?
I think if he gets multi-challenged, it'll be likely. But I also think if he blows the start, then things will be very, very interesting. And since he's done it 4 out of 5 times, had some trouble at the beginning of the race, that concerns me. And that's probably the biggest factor why I don't think he's going to win. Because if anything happens at the beginning, all bets are off. I mean, then it could be anybody.
Well, as long as his saddle doesn't slip, right? All right.
Oh yeah.
So what do you think about that? If the horse gets off to a bad start, some of these really quality horses get in front of him, Charles. And I think interestingly, he's working well at Santa Anita, but doesn't have any works over to Keeneland track that are published yet. So what do you think about that?
Well, yeah, he did have one. I think it was published,
One on the
which was
same
excellent.
spot.
Yeah, but I don't.
I don't see it.
That doesn't matter to me that much. I think he brought the horse over in perfect timing. Breaking Bad. Okay, yes, he's. I think almost every race a bit off, a little slow out of the gate. He's even got bumped at the start, and then he's even got steadied at the start. And are you kidding me? And he still wins by 11, 8, 9, 10 lengths.
Again, the competition. Country Grammar was coming back from the Middle East, and many horses, when they come back from the Middle East, they take a race or two to readjust to being back on this side of the planet.
Well, you could also only run against who shows up. Also, so Country Grammar was the big name. Has done well in the past. Has done well in Europe. Not in Europe, but in Dubai and stuff. Has done well everywhere. And that was the one that showed up, and that's the one that got not just beat, was annihilated. Mm-hmm. And even in that last race, when he beat, not last race, the race before, when he beat Happy Saver was picking up pieces. That's where Speaker's Corner took the lead. Now, Speaker's Corner is no slouch when it comes to speed. That horse has tons of speed. And by the second call, that horse was cooked. He could not keep up with Flightline. If you look back at the video, Flightline was cruising at him. So once again.
So let me ask you a question, Charles. So if Speaker's Corner was squaring off today, was in this race instead of Flightline, and it was Speaker's Corner versus Life is Good or Epicenter or Olympiad or any of these others, where would you put it? 5th, 6th?
Well, it's too far for that Speaker's Corner personally, but where would I put it? It would probably finish about 5th or so. I think it would set up for Epicenter, probably, most likely. Olympiad, maybe too, also. But I don't think Life is Good would do good either, because it would have another speed horse to weaken him. Life is Good is a very good horse, don't get me wrong, and has done very well. But even when he met Jackie's Warrior for 7 furlongs there, they were cooking at 108 at the 6 furlong mark, and guess who took the lead at the end? And it was Jackie's Warrior. So that's a type of horse that Life is Good is going to go up against, but multiply that 100 times, which is Flightline.
Thomas, what do you say about the competition for Flightline? You think it's a little overstated that his wins have been so big against perhaps company that hasn't been the best?
Well, they're good horses that we're running against them. They're just not Flightline level horses. And we watched in Europe not too long ago the undefeated Baid run a very ordinary race and was easily beaten. Granted it's on grass, not dirt, but that doesn't, again, you were talking about a top class horse, and he just ran an ordinary race. Well, any given day, any horse can run ordinary, and the question is what Flightline has been looking good, and the works looks good in the morning, but you got to show up in the afternoon, and there's a lot of noise, people, et cetera, going on there that he's not really heard before. Because those races that he was running, Del Mar's got people there, but it's nowhere near the atmosphere that a Breeders' Cup is.
And certainly the Epicenter has probably felt that in the races it's run.
Derby, at the Traverse.
Well, yeah, all the 3-year-olds have that memory right now still in their head. All 3 of them that are in this race. That, the noise level wise, like Tom said, would be a factor on that aspect. But I mean, I think the only 3-year-old in this group I think has a shot of picking up second, which would be Epicenter. That's your
Epicenter.
ice cold exacta. Flightline to epicenter.
Recent stat on older horses coming to BC from California are 0-29 in the win column. Ooh,
Yes, that
looks
is
like
true.
they're voting against you there, Charles.
And
What do you say about that? 0 for
and part
29. That's
0
a
for
very
29.
Baid statistic.
Yeah, and I'll even add to that stat is that only 5 out of those 29 finished in the money. I get that. I understand that. But this is a monster. There's a difference. Now, is he the best horse of all time? Well, I don't know about that one. But I will say for this generation, it's probably a generation horse.
Mm-hmm. He's talking about at Keeneland specifically. Chad says he sees Flightline, Happy Saver, all as his trifecta. So he's trying to turn a trifecta. If that's the way you feel, Chad, why not put all on the back end of it and make it a superfecta, right? So if you're going to make it exacta, just go Flightline, Happy Saver, all, turn it into a superfecta. You'll get a little bit better. And if there comes 1-2, it's going to be the same result. Just maybe a little bit more money to make that bet for certain. All right, Thomas. So
we got to go back and also look at the Breeders' Cup Classic and some of the horses that have gotten beaten.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In the race.
But like they said, that was
an alphabet soup beat.
Mm-hmm.
Cigar. Wasn't he the horse of a lifetime? Yeah. Archon, the longest shot to ever win the Breeders' Cup Classic, beat Bertrando, who is also considered to be one of the top. Now, he's gone on and done pretty well, but the one at Arlington Park, the longest shot on the board, won the race. Bo Pony, and who did he beat? Maglo de Oro and Warelmum. And then don't forget about the first Breeders' Cup race. Pat Day up on Wild again, and he beat Gate Dancer and Slew of Gold. So, I mean, these are all, they've been beaten. Mm-hmm. Secretariat was beaten by Onion. It happens. And so, you want to look, if you're looking for value in this race, there's other places. Flightline with everybody, maybe put them second.
Mm-hmm. The back door. So just to kind of build on what you were talking about there, Thomas.
Yeah.
In our Breeders' Cup preview off of the pre-entries, we did a little bit of homework to get some interesting stats. As far as the Breeders' Cup, you had mentioned Bob Baffert. I know it's a different horses this time around, but Bob Baffert has won 4 of the last 8. Certainly, he's probably the most motivated trainer in this group. The other thing that we have to look in here, the favorites only won 2 of these races in the last 10 years. So it's not been the best race for the favorite, but you can't get too far up the leaderboard because the average payout since 2012, so in the last decade, is just $9.80 on the Breeders' Cup Classic. I think I'm going to be looking at the second or third price horse. I'm going to be looking at Life is Good and Epicenter as that race day comes. Though I do think Flightline will be in there. I expect one of those 2 horses. Olympiad's been pretty solid too. I'm going to look for one of those horses that can sit right behind what I think is likely to be a hot pace, be right off their tails, and then when the pace starts to break down, are able to capitalize and run by everybody late. And I'm not quite sure who those are, but I know I've seen Epicenter put up a fight like that. And Olympiad, I think, is another horse that fits in that mix. And if Rich Strike, I know it's not Rich's Strike, but I like to take ownership of that horse because of my name. So it is Rich's Strike as far as I'm concerned. If we see a repeat of the Kentucky Derby where they go too fast, you think maybe he can sneak up and steal another one at good odds, Tom?
Sure, why not?
Charles?
He's got the post position the trainer wanted, which was the outside.
Mm-hmm.
That is probably the only shot he has is because the outside post. Maybe, but still no.
Still no, huh?
Uh-huh.
All right. Any final thoughts before we go, gentlemen? Oh, well, we haven't decided this, so why don't you help us decide who the winner is? Go ahead and go to our social sites. You see them down below. Horse Race the number 2 day, Horse Race Today on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Tell us who you think is going to win or make your case as to why Flightline might win or why Flightline might lose. And then pick a winner, Charles or Thomas, to see which made the better argument. Any final thoughts, Charles, to make any closing argument to make your case?
No, I think I stated my case pretty well here. I am gonna go with an ice cold exacta though. Like I said, the 4-6 exacta, which is Flightline to Epicenter. That's my exacta. I think Life is Good will finish out of the money, and that's my prediction. Actually, I'm gonna go bolder than that. He's gonna finish fifth or worse.
Fifth or worse. Well, that's still out of the money. All right,
Yeah.
Thomas.
I think it's a matter of when he moves, Flightline moves. If he moves a little later than normal, then I think Epicenter and others have a chance to beat him. And then what's up front and what they're running at will be interesting. If they can measure it a little, then it's going to be a very interesting race. If somebody goes out and sets blistering paces, then I think Flightline would probably beat him. But I think in a measured pace, it gets to become a very interesting race.
I kind of see it like it just reminds me of that Latruska race between the Ortiz brothers. I got a feeling that someone's going to go and really set the tempo and push Flightline and see if they can burn that horse out, because everybody sees the same thing. And I think that they realize that the only way to get that chance is going with Tom. All right.
Tom's already got a vote.
Yes.
Well, with that being said, I mean, that's actually probably not a smart move either, because, I mean, second place money is huge in this race. It's huge. So you should be playing your best to try to win it, but not to sacrifice yourself. So whoever that would be, if it's the Baffert's horse or even if it's Hot Rod Charlie trying to do something too early, whatever the case may be, you might be taking yourself out of some serious coinage.
Well, I got to say about that Hot Rod Charlie, that's a horse we didn't really talk about much, but if you watch his races, that horse is a fighter, race after race after race. And I think he will doggedly stay after Flightline. And I'm just curious to see what happens if Flightline has to fight for a win, because we don't know if he has the heart to fight for a win or not, because he's vanquished what I think is they're good horses, but they're not tier 1 horses. It's going to face tier 1 horses for the first time. Country Grammar is a tier horse at times, but can also be one that runs some sneakers in there as well. So I think he's going to get challenged. I personally don't feel that 2-5 or 1-5 that's a horse that you can bet, other than if you're trying to beat him, like Tom said, in a backdoor exacta or a backdoor exacta, because that's how you're going to make money. All right, gentlemen. That wraps up our Flightline yes or no series. We'll see which one wins when the Breeders' Cup Classic goes final on Saturday afternoon. Keep, as I said, up to speed with what we're doing here with our social media site, because we'll let you know what further coverage we're going to have. We're contemplating some live shows, so keep an eye out for that. Gentlemen, thank you for your time this evening. As always, we hope that whatever you're doing for the rest of this evening, whether it's Flightline or somebody else, that it ends up in the
winner's circle.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great day.